Hey guys, I hope you're all doing well today. I just thought I'd come on here and chat a little bit. I was thinking about, just kind of documenting my own life as well as that of the rest of my family. Just the stuff that has happened to us and that we've endured, whatnot, for the last, I'd say, 15 years or so. So, my father, the person for whom this channel is specifically dedicated, back in 2012 had his first stroke. He was actually riding on a motorcycle with one of his erstwhile friends. He has this motorcycle called a Kawasaki Ninja. At the time, it was the fastest motorcycle in existence, and he had a stroke while riding it. But my dad, being as tough mentally as he is, all that happened was he flew off the motorcycle and skidded his hands. And thankfully, it wasn't a particularly bad stroke, relatively speaking. But a stroke is a stroke, right? And then, it was also right around that time, about 2010 actually, a little bit before that, where he originally lost his job as a respiratory therapist. And I can get into why that happened later. My mom seems to think that it's a form of self-sabotage, but I don't think that was really what it was. However, that's my own opinion. I don't know the details. And since that point, 2010, he had been searching for meaning, for direction in his life. He was depressed, obviously. For a good reason. The way a man gets his worth out of life is being useful. And if you're just sort of sitting around like a bump on a log, which my dad was doing, he was getting more and more depressed. And because of that, my dad's got an addictive personality. He dove into substances. Substance abuse, and in particular cigarettes, nicotine, stuff like that. And that made it worse and worse for him over time. The strokes are exacerbated, and you're likely going to have more. There's a much higher chance if you smoke cigarettes. That was always his primary vice. And, at this time, I had just graduated from the Air Force Academy. That was May 23rd of 2012. It's about the time, right around there, where he had his first stroke. And I was on my 60 days. You get 60 days of leave once you graduate from the academy, because it is legitimately an extremely difficult endeavor to go through the academy, graduate, and to do halfway decently, which I did. So they give you 60 days to go and just sort of decompress, right? So we went on a cruise to Alaska on the Norwegian Joy. Back then it was a pretty new watercraft. It's, obviously still pretty new. It's only been 10, 11 years, and the watercraft are intended to last for a very long time. So we went to an Alaskan cruise for like 7 to 10 days. And we also went to Vegas, went to the Grand Canyon. We did all sorts of fun stuff. And we have, actually, on my primary channel, I have a bunch of old videos of that. My original channel's shadow banned, so there's not really much I can do about that. But, after that point, right around October, I went to Del Rio, Texas, Laughlin Air Force Base, where I went and did undergraduate pilot training. This was after I had gone through initial flight screening in Pueblo, Colorado. IFS is the acronym for that. And barely got through it. And I was a good pilot, but the military never liked me. I can get into that later, but now that I think about it, it was actually while I was at IFS. I was the last person to graduate from my IFS class. I was there when everybody else had already gone off to their primary mission locations, their primary undergraduate pilot training bases. I remember it was the weekend, Friday, I had gotten a call from my mom where she told me my dad had a stroke. That was, like October of 2012. And I asked my instructors if I could take a couple days to just sort of decompress and get my bearings. They said yes, and then I went and did the final flight for my class after I got back from that weekend. And it was right around that time that happened, which is really crazy because that was right after we had gone on our cruise and had done everything on 60 days, and I'm very happy that I did. It really highlights to you the critical importance of seizing the day and living every day of your life like it matters, because it does. My father was fully cognizant while we were on those things, while we were doing those things, having our vacation. Wouldn't have happened otherwise. The conversations that we had, time we spent together. I mean, he's still here right now, but he's, as you've seen in some of the other videos, only halfway, really. But, about that time, I got through, and then I went off to Laughlin Air Force Base in Del Rio. That was a bitch. And I was carrying the weight of the stuff that was happening back home this entire time. And, my dad not being able to get a job, compounded on top of him having a stroke and crashing his motorcycle and all this other stuff, made it even more difficult on my mother and the rest of the people that were living at my house at the time. It just, I was like 1,200 miles away from my family, and all this stuff was happening. I was keeping it compartmentalized to myself. But the military didn't really care. I remember when I was flying my mission jet, I was deployed to the desert, Al Udeid. And my father had his most massive stroke in 2015, where he was verbally and physically impaired essentially indefinitely. The state that he's in now is what you see as a result of that. I was deployed, and my leadership left it on me to decide whether I should stay, and they should have made the decision for me that I should have gone home. But they weren't good leaders, so it was on my shoulders. In a compromised mental state, they made me make the decision while I was deployed. And this was in addition to how horribly they were treating me. They're just bad people. Bad people. And my mother was on the verge of filing for bankruptcy because she couldn't figure out the finances on her own. It was something that my dad had always done. Anyways, I think I'll go ahead and leave that here because this is just a little bit of a discussion on the background, and I want to make sure that I cover as much as I can because there's a lot. There's a lot, and if we don't talk about it, then nobody will ever know. Watching videos from 10 years ago on my primary YouTube channel, remembering the things that I experienced, and my mental state, my spiritual state, my physical state, all that. I mean, I've got peripheral vascular disease. I can't walk now very well. I used to be a marathon runner. So yeah, fully a third of my passion in life was taken away from me when I lost my ability to run distance. And these are things that, need to be covered a little bit, with a little bit greater nuance and detail. So I'm not going to go through all of it right now. We'll just say that I'm leaving it off with me having gone to undergraduate pilot training in Del Rio, Texas. And we'll continue from there for the next video. Anyways, if you like what you're hearing and seeing, please like and subscribe. I would love to take you along on our journey so that you can see the catalog, the chronicle of the life of a few individuals who may not be known in greater depth in the future, but this is just a slice of life of a human being in this era in human history. Maybe a little bit more adversity, maybe a little bit less than some other people, but interesting to look at. Maybe you could use it as a case study. You Dead Sea Scrolls historians 5 million years in the future. If you speak my language, and I'm sure you do. Anyways, love y'all. Peace.